IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav एवं नीति अनुसंधान संस्थान नई दिल्ली extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI #Web Policy Learning. Today, we are gathered here for day 21 of Law and Public Policy Youth Fellowship, an online national summer school program, a 2-month online immersive legal awareness and action research certificate training course and internship program. This program is organized by IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, New Delhi. The chair for the program is Professor Vibhuti Patel, visiting distinguished professor at IMPRI, and the fellowship lead advisor and expert legal hands-on sessions is Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam, visiting senior fellow IMPRI. The distinguished experts include Shri Sandeep Chachra, Professor Vibhuti Patel, Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam, Advocate Dr. Vaida Nayanar, Professor Mukul Ashar, Professor Uday Shankar, Shri Udit Mishra, Dr. Nivedita P. Haran, Shri Bhatendra Singh Baswan, Dr. Purnima Chauhan, Advocate Dr. Albertina Almeida, Dr. Gladstone Xavier, Professor Aruna Roy, Advocate Audrey de Mello, Dr. Kaustav K. Bandhopadhyay, Advocate Mrinalini Deshmukh, Professor Sharmila Goge, Advocate Flavia Agnes, Dr. Rashmi Singh, Mr. Debaditya Sinha, Professor Swaran Singh, Advocate Lara Zisani, Professor Anil K. Gupta, Justice Ajit K. Singh, Mr. Himanshu Shekhar, Dr. Amar Jisani, Dr. Soumyadeep Chattopadhyay, Mr. Bilal Khan, Shri Rajiv Ranjan Singh, Shri Tikender Singh Panwar, Shri Shailesh Gandhi, Dr. Simi Mehta, Advocate Abdul Hafiz Gandhi, Professor Amita Singh, Dr. Ajay Gudavarti, Shri Amit Dubey, Professor Sanghamitra Acharya, Dr. Y. Suresh Reddy, Advocate Sanchita N, and Shri Surendranath Tripathi. The conveners for this course are Dr. Simi Mehta, CEO and Editorial Director at IMPRI, Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam, Visiting Senior Fellow IMPRI, and Dr. Arjun Kumar, Director at IMPRI. I welcome you all to this enlightening deliberation and thank you for putting your time, energy, and efforts into truly understanding the vital role and complex intricacies of legal and public policy frameworks. The course will enable the participants to comprehend the nuances and technicalities of legal and public policy paradigms and therefore acquire theoretical insights along with technical skills to conduct research. We have also shared the course outline and reading resources document in your email for your kind perusal. We will be providing videos of each session for flexible learning at your pace and pace. Before we start today's session, I would like to announce the housekeeping rules. It is imperative that you join the meeting on time. There will be a Q&A session after each presentation. Share your questions in the Q&A box and not in the chat box. The questions must not be posted as an anonymous attendee. Ensure that your questions are precise. Refrain from making general comments in the question to save time. Our session for day 21 will cover the topic of Time-Bound Justice is Easily Possible in India by Shri Shailesh Gandhi. To start the session, I would like to invite Professor Vibhuti Patel for her opening chair remarks. Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Yes. Thank you, Nikita. First of all, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Arjun Kumar, Dr. Simi Mehta, Dr. Shalu Nigam, Ms. Shweta Shankar, Satyam Tripathi, and Nikita Bharadwaj and Samriddhi Sharma and Harsha Patra for putting together this course. Welcome Shri Shailesh Gandhi and esteemed participants. On the 7th week and 21st day of the online National Summer School, I would like to briefly summarize what all has transpired. We all began with the discussion on relationship of law and public policy, the concepts, operational guidelines, international instruments of human rights, how the political economy determines and the interface of it with the public policy, and what kind of policy initiatives with the Indian judiciary has taken, the role of judicial activism, role of media. We have this thing, and how the bureaucrats and administrators are playing important role at implementation level, both at a subnational level and national level. Even the role of Panchayati Raj institution, urban and local self-government bodies were also shared by the actual practitioners as IAS officers and the community-based organization. Professor Aruna Roy and Nikhil Days, they shared the experiences of Rajasthan government in the social sector budgeting and the new schemes and the whole people's participation in the process of human development initiatives at a subnational level. We also had a very important sharing by Advocate Audrey Demero, where 50 years of Majlis, journey of Majlis, which provides support to survivor of sexual violence, and how the schemes called Manodharya operates. Flavia Agnes also discussed the nuances of the interface of law, society, and gender. There were IAS officers who also deconstructed the social welfare schemes and the public policies and the new experiences of Himachal Pradesh when the people, when there is a proactive effort of the state and people's participation, how you can change the design and the target of the program. Environmental laws were deconstructed by 4 to 5 experts who also talked about the dilution of environmental policy with special focus on environmental impact assessment, and also the forest laws, the environmental, the disaster management, and how it impacts the people's lives, and how the public policies have responded to the emergencies. Judicial systems activity and the criminal justice system, the police force, how does it operate? That was also the first and experience was shared. Then we moved to the action research web, which is targeted to bringing legal reforms and also public policies. So ethics and research, the field work, qualitative and quantitative aspects of the researches, and how the public policies were playing important role in at a local government level. And there were several interactive sessions conducted by Dr. Shalu Nigam regarding capital punishment. There was a debate, then there was a law on the Juvenile Justice Act that was discussed by Dr. Albertina, who were also involved in the process of inaction of this act, and the Goa Children's Act. So overall, we have tried to encompass all aspects of civil, labor, and criminal laws, and also the public policies by different ministries and at a national and subnational level, and also local self-government level. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, ma'am. Next up, we have Sri Shailesh Gandhi, who will be taking up the session on the topic, Time-Bound Justice is Easily Possible in India. Sri Shailesh Gandhi is an RTI activist and former Central Information Commissioner. Welcome, sir, and over to you.
Fellow citizens of India, people wonder how I get interested into the law field, not being a trained lawyer at all. And I'd like to tell you a story that a human rights lawyer told me many years back, which led me into this journey. He told me the story of Tukaram. Tukaram was a 23-year-old young man from Vidarbha in Maharashtra, which is drought-prone and is very poverty-stricken. He was a laborer on others' work fields and was not able to make enough to feed his wife and his 1-year-old child. Every day they would go hungry to sleep. He decided to come to Mumbai to try his luck and hope that he would be able to earn enough to see that all three of them could get a reasonable meal at the end of the day and not go hungry. When he came to Bombay, on the first night, he slept on a footpath. The police picked him up and he was taken to prison, and he had no clue what was happening to him. He would be taken to magistrates' courts at times, told certain things and brought back. And this continued for 3 years. After 3 years, this human rights lawyer met him, understood the issue, put it before the magistrate, who released him immediately. Tukaram went back to his village. He discovered that his child had died. and his wife had married a 60-year-old widower to make ends meet. Tukaram committed suicide. It must be listed as a farmer's suicide somewhere in the statistics. I would call it amendment to suicide by the judicial system, by a judicial criminal system. And therefore, I started wondering, is there a way of ensuring that justice is done in a reasonable time? I had heard of Justice V.V. Rao, who had said that it would take 320 years to resolve the pendencies in Indian courts. I don't know how he came up with this figure of 320 years. I've heard such figures and they make no sense. So I decided to try and understand the issue and see whether there is a solution. To my mind, fundamental and non-negotiable is the fact that justice must be done in reasonable time. If it's not done in reasonable time, it is meaningless. It's an injustice system, masquerading as a justice system. Therefore, let me share my presentation with you. Can someone run my presentation, please? Dr. Arjun Kumar?
Yes,
Thank
of
you.
course. Yes, sir. We have
Thank
started. Yes. You can go full screen, Satyam.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead. You can suggest us when to move the slides.
Sure. My basic proposition is time-bound justice is easily possible. And it happens in the world. It is not a new thing. When I talk to the Indian legal fraternity, they say it is not possible. Mr. Gandhi, you don't understand since you're not a lawyer. The world practices this and delivers this. Next slide, please. Incidentally, we may not realize we've created a new world record. India has over 5 crore pending cases in its courts. No other country in the world, including the United States has about 10 crore cases a year in its various courts. But their pending cases are typically 2 to 3 crores. We've achieved a figure of 5 crores. I was wondering, we are targeting a 5 trillion economy. Our courts are setting an unbeatable world record of 5 crore cases. Maybe they will cross our GDP at some point in time at this rate. Next slide, please. People say delayed justice is denied justice. I say it is injustice. We have a system of injustice in place. In many countries, over 70% of the cases are disposed in less than 4 months, and less than 1% take over 3 years. In India, presently, about 30% are disposed in 1 year, and over 40% take over 3 years. India is 79th position in the rule of law index. With this, can we become a first-rate nation? Unless we change this. To my belief, we cannot, unless we change it, we cannot become a first-rate nation. Next slide, please. The World Justice Project had done a survey worldwide to rank average number of months to solve a legal problem. They're not talking of a case, but they talk of solving a legal problem. India takes the cake. According to this, it is 35 months in India, the average period. Bangladesh is 8.1 months. Kenya is 2.9 months. Pakistan is 2.5 months. Nigeria is the second worst after India at 14.2 months. These are not things that we should be proud of. We should be ashamed of this. And we must find a way. The world has found a way. To say that India cannot resolve this is an insult to Indian ingenuity. Next slide, please. Let us look at this graph from the Economic Survey of India made by the Finance Minister in 2018-19. This, according to this, India takes around 30 months to clear cases in civil cases and a little less in criminal cases. Whereas the average age of disposed cases in the case of the countries of Council of Europe is around 6 months. 6 months versus 30 months. And one can't say they don't have a justice system. The world has a justice system. There are countries that do far better than us. They have people going to courts and they have justice being delivered in less than 6 months. Next slide. We say our prisons are overcrowded. Our entire judicial system is unmanageable. So what do? Build more prisons. And we keep building more prisons. We keep expanding this. Next slide, please. 2021, this is source from National Criminal Records Bureau. The number of convicts in our prisons was 1,22,852. This number of under trials was 4,27,165. 78% were the under trials in prisons. There's another category of others, 4,000. The total was 5,54,000. Prison capacity is 4,25,000. If under trials were 50%, in the US, the number of under trials is 20%. If under trials were 50%, you would have had 1,22,852 under trials. Prison capacity required would be 2,45,604. But we are focusing on building more prisons. In fact, it's laughable. Bombay High Court is monitoring building of prisons by the state government. What I think we should stress is make courts not prisons. Overcrowding in prisons is due to delayed justice. And Tukaram is not a lonely case. There are lakhs of Tukarams in the country. I often wonder, there are a lot of friends who are great lovers of animals, very sensitive to animal comfort, animal rights, and so on. They're not bothered about people being put into cages for no reason, for no fault of theirs. I think we should think a little more carefully and readjust our priorities on this matter. Next, please. We talk of corruption not decreasing. Some years back, we had a big anti-corruption movement which resulted in a Lokpal and a political party and which got 2 chief ministerships in Punjab as well as Delhi. A study was done by a CBI anti-corruption branch for a 5-year period, 1980 to 1984. The accused persons were 275. Convicted was 144. Average time for investigation was 13.4 months. Average time for first trial, 88 months. Number of accused sent to prison for over 20 years, 26 years later, was counted as 4. After 26 years, judicial process still continues in 71 cases. In 71 cases, appeals were still being heard in 2008. And this is statistics from the Indian Police Journal put out by reputed Indian police service officers. A full CBI anti-corruption branch in 5 years of work would only ensure serious punishment for 4 persons. It's a joke. Does anyone worry about getting caught in corruption? The answer is no. The chance of getting caught are very dim. Even if caught, the chance of actually getting punished are extremely rare. Unless the judicial system delivers in reasonable time, corruption will thrive and the rule of law cannot prevail. Lokpal is no solution. We have Lokpals, we have Lokayogs, we have... Worldwide, in most countries, there is no vigilance branch in government departments. India has vigilance departments in almost all government departments. That doesn't deliver. So we have an ACB in each state, anti-corruption bureau. Kuch nahi hota hai. Then we have a Central Bureau of Investigation. Ineffective. Then a Central Vigilance Commissioner. Ineffective. Now we have a Lokpal burning over 20 crore rupees a year, achieving nothing, zilch. Nobody's heard of Lokpal doing anything. And all of this is due to the fact that our judicial system does not deliver in reasonable time. Next slide, please. Usual solutions suggested: major judicial reforms. Judges must perform better, no adjournments, change laws, double or triple the number of judges. Chief Justice of India, Justice Thakur, in 2017, with the Prime Minister on stage, had tears running down his eyes. And he said, India needs 70,000 judges. Otherwise, I can't function. The sanction strength at that time was 23,814 in 2017. Except the problem cannot be solved and keep growing bigger. According to a Niti Aayog strategy paper, it will take 324 years to clear backlog. Justice V.V. Rao came up with 320 years. Niti Aayog says 324 years. How in the world are these people calculating? How in the world are they making such absurd claims? Without changing anything in the way courts work, how many judges would be required to clear the incoming cases is the exercise we attempted to do. This assumes the same average number of judicial hours per case as at present. The analysis is based on the simple assumption that if 10 judges dispose 10,000 cases in a year, 12 judges will clear 12,000 cases. The sanction position of judges was increased from 2006 to 2017 by 19%, 49%, and 55% for the Supreme Court, High Courts, and subordinate courts. We picked data from the Supreme Court's website, which is as reliable as one can imagine it to be. And we analyzed this data, which I'll present the results to you. Next slide, please. Now, what is the effect of a long gestation period? In criminal cases, investigating machinery loses interest, witnesses lose memory, and results in contradictions. Effect conviction in a genuine, truthful case becomes a dream. In civil matters, delay in grant of relief has effect of frustration of relief. Justice doesn't exist in India, is my submission. It exists only for the rich and the powerful. For the poor and the marginalized, it actually goes against them. And incidentally, let me relate a personal incident, and some of you would also have personal incidents like this. Many years back, I witnessed a car thief being apprehended by police. The police gave a chase, apprehended him, and I saw the whole thing before me. The police asked me if I would be a witness. I said, yes, I'm willing to say what I saw. So I made a statement which they recorded. I forgot all about it. 3 years later, I received a summons from a magistrate's court saying in this case of this so number, you are required to come as witness and give witness. And I started thinking and realized I didn't even remember the name of the thief or the clothes he'd worn. I could not 3 years later recall things. How in the world does a criminal just, so I refused to go. I told the judge as much. I said, I refuse to come because I will not be able to say anything sensible. I don't remember. That was not a high point of my life. And this must be a common experience, I guess. Next slide, please. We looked at the judges' vacancies and the sanction positions. In the judges' case, the Supreme Court in 2002 said we need 50 judges per million population. Unless we have it, we cannot work. Subsequent Supreme Court judgments have also said the same thing. So we looked at this. The average vacancy in the Supreme Court judges is 12%. The average vacancies in the high courts is 32%, believe it or not. 1 in 3 positions is not filled. And the average vacancies in the subordinate courts is 21%. And you'll notice we've done this study from 2006 to 2017. There is no period, not a single year where there are 0 vacancies. It just doesn't matter. And if these vacancies had been filled up, what would have happened? We assume every year the average disposal per judge, and said if the missing judges had been appointed, so much extra would have happened. And this is what I call missed disposal. And the results are in the next slide. Next slide, please. In the 12-year period, the total cases instituted in Supreme Court, High Courts, and lower courts is given in lakhs. Total in the 12-year period was 22,380 lakhs, which means 23 crore 80 lakh in 12 years. The average per year works out to 198.4, which is simple calculation, dividing by 12. Total cases disposed, the average comes to 193.7. Increase in pendency is 4.7 lakh cases per year. That's all. 198 lakh cases were being disposed and less than 5 lakh cases were pending each year on an average. Missed disposal due to vacancies was 55.1 lakh cases each year. The balance pending, incidentally, in 2017 was total of 3 crore 48 lakh cases. The balance pending could have been, if we deduct the missed disposal from the balance pending, minus 0.65, minus 41.42 lakhs, minus 270.58 lakhs, giving you a total of minus 3 crore 12 lakh cases. Now we can't have minus cases, I understand. It means either we could have done with slightly lower judges, or we could have dealt with more cases if they had come, or maybe imported cases from other countries. But the point is, we are at the worst end of the case disposal. So no country needs to export to us. We could have done with lower number of judges. Some people, the legal fraternity is quite often horrified when I talk like this. They say, Mr. Gandhi, cases vary so much. A case can take 30 years, a case can take 5 minutes. So how can you take an average like this? What is not appreciated is, we've done an analysis each year, and the average disposal per year over the 12-year period shows a standard deviation of just 6% in the subordinate judiciary, 8% in the high courts, and 11% in the Supreme Court, which indicates that the variability is not so high, and therefore the national result is forecastable. And this is a valid position to take. Incidentally, the Law Commission report, 245th report of the Law Commission, estimated number of judges required using an identical method. Nobody looked at it. Law Commission reports, I'm horrified. Somebody's made a paper on that. Most Law Commission reports are not implemented. Nothing comes out of it. It is just some work for some people with zero output, zero outcome. Next slide, please. In summary, 198.4 lakh cases per year instituted, cases disposed 193.7, shortfall 4.7. Missed disposal each year was 55.1 lakh average. Disposal shortfall was less than 2.5%. Because vacancies were about 21%. Is there a reason that we live with this? Is this on anybody's agenda? I'm going to request all of you at the end of my talk to challenge what I say. Say that Shailesh Gandhi bakwas kar raha hai. I'd be happy to discuss. Even if the solution that I'm offering is useless, let me concede that for a moment. I am saying India has to find a solution to the delays. And the delays are more for the poor. The rich and the powerful, or the wrongdoers, are able to expedite their cases or delay their cases at will. Article 14 of the Indian Constitution is violated each day in our courts. Each day. And we seem to be oblivious to it. We don't seem to be concerned. Next slide. It's just two figures I picked up. In 2006, number of High Court judges sanctioned in India was 716. Number of High Court judges working was 611. In 2022, the number of High Court judges was 1108 sanctioned, and 730 judges were working. So the difference is small. We keep increasing our sanction strength, but we do not appoint the judges. And why is this? Next slide, please. The collegium had 4 judges sitting on the lawns outside and protesting about things not being okay in the Supreme Court of India, Justice Chalmeshwar, Justice Lokor, and 2 others. In 2017, the collegium resolutions started becoming meaningful. It lasted for 3-4 months or 6 months. And I think when Justice Chalmeshwar retired, they got back to the system of just recording number of people who are appointed. But here is an interesting thing. When they were reporting properly, Kerala High Court, Supreme Court collegium cleared in October 2017 after a delay of 15 to 18 months since the time the vacancy occurred. Madras High Court 16 to 20 months. Madras High Court 3 to 6 months. Names are not even suggested by the Supreme Court collegium. The standard story is the government is to blame. If the government doesn't appoint the moment the Supreme Court sends a suggestion. But appointment of judges has become a joke. 2 months back, the Supreme Court collegium recommended a name for the Chief Justice position of Bombay High Court. 6 weeks before he was due to retire. The government took a month, and ultimately the gentleman became the Chief Justice of Bombay High Court for a week, and Bombay High Court is still without a Chief Justice. Is this a joke? Is anybody accountable? Next slide, please. Here's something I found of New York High Court. The plaintiff, a Japanese corporation with principal offices in Japan, submitted an opinion of Upindranath Kripal, a former Chief Justice of India, who expressed his conclusion that because of huge backlog of existing cases, the fact that no preference is given to commercial cases or no submitted cases, the shorter judges in India, it could take the New Delhi High Court at least 10 years to decide this type of case. The Japanese company was arguing that in India you cannot get justice. And the former Chief Justice of India was giving an affidavit to back that. In contrast, the defendant bank tendered an affidavit of Chief Justice of CJI Ahmadi, another former Chief Justice of India, explaining that India provides an adequate alternative form and that the Indian Code of Civil Procedure had been amended in 1999 and 2002 in order to expedite the resolution of commercial matters. Former Justice Ahmadi expressed the view that Indian courts could handle this. 2 Chief Justices of India went to a New York court and gave affidavits saying that justice is not possible in India. And there was no sense of shame. There was no sense of saying that who's responsible. If I was the Chief Justice of India, I'd die of shame. Next slide, please. Now, people say we can't achieve zero. You know, one High Court judge who I spoke to about this said, Mr. Gandhi, judges retire. He made it sound like that is an act of God. I'm therefore making a submission. Draw a list of retirements for the next 5 years and renew it every year. The retirement date of a judge is known the date he is appointed, because the date of birth is known. Estimate vacancies due to deaths, resignation, promotion based on earlier 3 years data. B. Every year forecast the number of cases for next 3 years and factor the additional judges required. C. Add all three and start the process of exams and collegium recommendations every 6 months. I feel foolish even talking of this, but this is because some of the judicial fraternity have said, Mr. Gandhi, it's a very complex task appointing judges. Another argument has been given to me by some people, we can't get good judges in India. Law colleges, IITs, IIMs, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, they take the best of what is available. Do not say we don't get good people, therefore we will not admit people. The same principle applies to business, the same principle applies to industry, the same principle must apply to judicial system. Next, please. Next slide, please. In the legal fraternity, I have found very few people willing to back this concept. They don't oppose or say nothing. They only say, Mr. Gandhi, it can't work like this. One of the people who was enthusiastically backed this is Justice B.N. Sri Krishna, where he says the analysis appears to be quite legitimate and solution propounded by Shailesh Gandhi seems workable. If you can click on this, we might be able to show you a 1-minute recording of Justice B.N. Krishna. Can you please click on the YouTube reference? Click on that.
But then it will open in another tab. So you can stop share and then play it.
Okay, then we'll do it in the end.
Okay, okay. At last we'll do it. No problem.
Next, go to the next slide, please. To the next slide, please. The Supreme Court, now there are a few additional things I'm suggesting. Though my basic contention is just appointed more judges and you will resolve your issue. Supreme Court E-Committee has been around since 2005. What has it achieved? E-filing of petitions, affidavits, payment of fees, SOPs ready. I have found out that the Bombay High Court says we are into the e-filing mode. And I've gone a little deep into that to understand how it works. So somebody has to file an e-filing of the petition. Nothing happens with that. Then the physical copy has to be, hard copy has to be submitted. Only when the hard copy is submitted will something move and get into the queue. After the hard copy is submitted, it is scanned. And nobody uses either the scanned image or the e-file. Everyone uses a paper. Why? If we stopped using paper in the courts of India, roughly 3 lakh trees each year would be saved. We talk about environment, the Supreme Court also talks of environment. Second submission is algorithm-based computerized listing roster, case allocation and judgments, with only 5% override to the judges. If this is done, it leads to a fairer system. And everybody will have a vested interest in time-bound justice system. Today, the top lawyers don't care. They can do as they wish. The arbitrariness is not funny. Hybrid virtual hearing is another submission which would save a lot of money and effort and lead to much better improvement in the system. Next slide, please. Australia in 2004-05 had this record. I'd just like to show you the first column in the magistrates' courts. 73.3% of the cases were resolved in less than 13 weeks. And more than 52 weeks, only 3.5% cases were left. Various countries in the world are managing it. Even African countries and Asian countries are doing better than us. And we claim to be the world leaders. We want to be the world leader. We must be the world leader. We deserve to be the world leader. But with a justice system that does not work, I don't think we can have managed this. Next slide, please. The proposal to fill judicial vacancies is endorsed by 100 IIT alumni, Justice B. N. Sri Krishna and Justice R. C. Chawar. These are the YouTube links. Campaign to add citizens' video endorsements with timely justice delivery. If you're not convinced, please tear my arguments to bits. I'd be very happy to really feel convinced that, oh no, we are doing the best we can. The conclusion I'm coming to is that the judicial system is not operating. Nobody is taking accountability, and there's a simple solution possible. If you are not convinced, tear my proposition to bits. But if you are convinced, make a small video of yourself, upload it on YouTube and various social media, propounding this. Make your own videos and upload them with the timely justice delivery on YouTube, etc., etc. Justice Chaman has done this. Justice Sri Krishna has done it. I think more citizens need to join. Next slide, please. We must first realize that long delays lead to injustice system, what is known as Matsya Nyaya. Matsya Nyaya is a concept that Chanakya talked of, where he said big fish eat the small fish. And we have this. This is easily achievable. We do not need 3 times the present judges, only about 20% more. Government can pass a law, fix responsibility to ensure less than 5% vacancies. CJI can treat this as a PI and give directions. All chief justices could be held accountable. Rule of law can prevail and right to speedy justice can be ensured. Objective must be that over 90% of cases must be decided in less than 6 months. 6 months, 9 months, whatever. Next slide, please. Fill up judicial vacancies. Subordinate judiciary, selecting the judges is an entrance exam in which the process is done, as far as I've understood, by the High Court and the state governments. Higher judiciary, the collegium recommendations are followed by government acceptance. Collegium has never recommended names equal to vacancies. Never. And citizens don't bother. Judges don't bother. The legal fraternity doesn't bother. Who is accountable? Have we even asked ourselves who is accountable? We are not asking. In many cases where I talk about this and ask people who is accountable, people say government is accountable. Acknowledge the shortfall and acknowledge that we must solve this immediately. We are going towards a disaster. Next slide, please. Filling judicial vacancies should be top priority. Accountability, fixing of responsibility of chief justices for implementation of speedy justice. E-filing of petitions, etc. Algorithm based. If just 1 and 2 are done, we'll see a sea change in India. Let somebody make a roadmap and say in 5 years we'll achieve this, in 10 years we'll achieve this. Instead of such ridiculous statements saying we'll take 320 years to clear backlogs. There is no justification, there is no arithmetic, there is no logic to these statements. It is just a statement saying India will be a third-rate nation. And I refuse to accept that as an Indian citizen. I treat it as a slap at my face. And all Indian citizens should feel it. It's like a slap in their faces. You can bring change. As Indian citizens, we can bring change. We say India is a democracy. I go by the simple definition of democracy. Democracy is rule of the people, for the people, by the people. Each one of you is the ruler of this nation. You are the Badshah or Begum of this nation. But if you're the Badshah or Begum of this nation, you deserve certain rights. You also have duties. It is our duty to ensure that we get a better judicial system, and it is easily possible. Next slide, please. Incidentally, this cancer of timelessness or untimely delivery has spread to all quasi-judicial bodies. Lok Ayogs, Women's Commission, Children's Commission, Human Rights Commission, Information Commissions, Police Complaints Authorities. Everybody goes as if human beings are immortal. Human beings are mortal and we need decisions in. The CGI must show a roadmap and define what is required and how much timeliness will be achieved. This is absolutely necessary. They may not go by what I'm submitting. My estimate is, even if adjournments were given strictly as per the spirit of the law and the words of CRPC and CVC, over 20% output would go up. Some people have told me 70% output would go up, but at least 20% seems a very safe thing. And who will make this change and who will bring this change? You, the Badshahs and Begums of this nation, will bring this change. And if we don't, nobody else will. I was looking at this since independence. In most matters, government deliveries have, the state delivery has improved, may not be as much as you desire, but it has improved in some measure. Roads, telecommunications, sanitation, water supply, electricity supply, name it and it's there. There is only one service which is deteriorated constantly. It continues to deteriorate with no sign of it abating. The judicial delivery system. If we want to be a first-rate nation, we deserve to be a first-rate nation. We have the potential to become a first-rate nation. Unless we become among the top 10 in terms of legal systems, we will continue to suffer, continue on our downward slide. And the poor and the marginalized suffer more, far, far more. Civilized societies favor the marginalized and the poor. We are doing something the reverse of this. We need to change this. We say our politicians are corrupt. 45% of our politicians are criminals. And the courts also say, yes, something should be done to them. The universal principle of jurisprudence is innocent until proved guilty. In India, we've turned it around and said, for those who want to stand for elections, guilty until proved innocent. If a charge sheet is filed, then forget the other judicial process. Let's forget all the judicial process. Say charge sheet is filed, you are criminal, you are sentenced. End of story. Period. You're not behaving logically. Next slide, please. Mera Bharat Mahan, we often say, right behind tempos, trucks, cars. But we don't really believe it, do we? Therefore, I say, next slide. Mera Bharat Mahan nahi hai. Mera Bharat Mahan nahi hai. Last slide, please. Par ye dosh mera hai. I, the individual sovereign citizen of this nation, am responsible. All of us are responsible, unless we can bring the change. It is not impossible. We need to focus on this as an agenda item and spread this. Now, I'm open to questions, discussions, criticism. And I repeat, tear me to bits. If you can't tear to bits, and if you believe a solution is possible, take upon yourself the concept that you will work to get a solution possible. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an enlightening and insightful session. Now I request the Chair, Professor Vibhuti Patel, to share her remarks.
Thank you, Shri Shailesh Gandhi ji, for making such a convincing case for judicial, for more people's participation and what all we can do to address the mind-boggling issue of judicial delay. I think most important thing is a political will, because I have been in the social movement right from the age of 15, and we have seen that when the politicians decide that justice has to be delayed, judiciary and the criminal justice system also toes the line. Even while being in the committee of ICC, you get pressurized from the top that, do you know the meaning of soft paddle? What is soft paddle? So they give people like us, we stick out our neck and we don't get scared and count down, but this is what mostly happens. Second thing is that question of a socio-economic background of the judges and judiciary. Their biases, which we see, like in case of Gontaben, who was a tribal woman who was raped by 8 people, right from the all those who were in the judiciary, and they had a total prejudice against tribal people. Even Justice Chandrachud's judgment on Mathura rape case is full of, even the judgment itself betrays his biases, no, against the tribal. Similarly, Priyanka Bhutpange, how long did it take? It took a massive agitation nearly for 1 month, and like all these young girls doing Rasta Roko and courting arrest and fighting on the streets, and person like Urmila Pawar leading the protest. After that, they at least even got ready to write FIR. So if it is, that is the level of insensitivity, the patriarchal bias, misogyny, caste biases against the tribal and the people who are marginalized, how do we go about it? And case of, say, POCSO cases, massive, that we had a presentation by Audrey, where she said, even in POCSO cases, you have a fast track court. Judges' judgments are given this thing, but the judge would ask the rapist to get married to this girl when she becomes major, even when the rapist is married and has 2 children. So this is the level of sensitivity and understanding. Even the basic constitution would not allow sanctity of an individual if person is violated, and judges this, and it is not one isolated case, whether it's a Bhopal court or Chennai court or Bombay, this thing, we hear this kind of judges. And the question of RTI, even when we are doing research in our organization, Sehat, even for basic information from the ministry, Mantralaya or department, you have to use RTI to get data. Data on public health, data on cases of this thing in patients' dissatisfaction or whatever. You have to use RTI, and only after that and you get data. So this is the level of insensitivity in the bureaucracy. So how do we start, and what is the step-by-step? Step? You have worked even as in the area of RTI. So
my submission, as far as RTI is concerned, it's almost getting murdered. And with the DPDP bill, we don't know what the final format is, but if it is as per the original draft bill, as far as RTI is concerned, it is finishing RTI.
Yeah.
But to come back to the topic, my submission is there will be bad judgments and good judgments. There will be lack of sensitivity. All these things are given. But at least it should happen in 6 months' time. My submission is, in our so-called quest for perfect justice, we have an injustice system. Long delays should be considered as the primary enemy of a just system, because that will ensure that the powerful, the wrongdoers, will gain more advantage.
yes,
Which we need to change. My submission is, we need to, as a nation, say delay is not acceptable. People with biases will remain so long as human beings are there. Good judges, bad judges will remain. But at least give a decision fast.
Yeah.
Not giving a decision is terrible. We made the process a punishment.
that's true. Yeah.
And the solution is not too difficult.
But this whole charge of nepotism, that only certain families, they are controlling the...
I concede all of that, man. I concede all of it. I wish it was not there. I wish I had a fairer society.
Yeah.
But at least in reasonable time, good or bad or ugly, my guess is the quality of judgments will remain the same. But it should happen in a speedy form.
Yes.
The Supreme Court has also recognized right to speedy justice as a fundamental right.
Yeah.
We need to question the courts and say you are violating our fundamental rights every day in the courts of law.
Yeah.
This is not a justice system.
Right.
We blame the political class, the bureaucracy. The justice system defends everything based on its independence. But they don't believe that they need to deliver in time. And most of us don't hold them to account.
Thank you, sir. I request Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam to share her remarks as well.
Thank you, sir, for such a lightning presentation. Just one or two things about the conviction rate. As in the slides you have shown that Australia has 77% of conviction rate, and even many other countries have very high conviction rates. But when we talk about India in terms of crime against women, especially the cases of the conviction rate is very low. If we talk about rape cases, if we talk about dowry cases, if we talk about domestic violence cases, is just 13% or so. So, and the Domestic Violence Act says itself that within 60 days an application should be heard, but that is not happening within the courts. We are taking 2 years and or more than that. Even sometimes there are cases which I have come across where the parties have died and still the cases are going on. So in such kind of situation, how should we talk about implementation? Because on the papers it's there that as you have said that the courts are talking about speedy justice and everything, but still at the ground level the things are not happening. As citizens, you rightly said that we have to pressurize, but I don't know where something is lacking somewhere. So I really can't say that what is happening. The second thing is about the collegium system. Again, the collegium system, there are a lot of questions about that, how the judges are being appointed, and there is a lot of dark things, and there is tussle between the government and the executive and the judiciary, about hiring of judges. And so your thoughts on that, sir?
My submission, I come back to this. So long as human beings are there, frailties will be there. I wish they are not there. But in India, we are not getting a timeliness. Let's assume that the judges are appointing their kin and their relatives. Let's assume that. It's probably true. Even if you change that, things will not change. So long as you accept delays as an intrinsic part of the judicial system. And I'm also part of certain WhatsApp groups of fairly prominent legal people. And to them also, it doesn't seem to matter. The demand that we need timely justice system and that it is possible is something that we are not making at all. We are saying this is not okay, that is not okay, that judgment is not okay. I concede, I wish they were better. I'm not saying we should tolerate it, but that won't change. On the other hand, if timeliness is there, things may improve. Even criminals will find it difficult to escape because witnesses, evidence can all be doctored over a period of years. A simple thing should shock all of us that only 30% cases are, if all the cases, if let us assume all cases were to take 5 years, at least it would have delivered Article 14 reasonably, which is not happening. FIFO has completely been over. And we are not raising the question, legal people policy people, the country is not raising the issue at all. That should bother us. At least that bothers me. And we are continuously going down. We talk of being world leaders. Our economy, we say, will grow. We'll have a more unfair system. We do not have a legal system. We do not, and we pretend that we have a legal system which is delivering. When we talk of individual judgments, we are assuming that the system is reasonably fair. And then these are some of the bad points. I'm saying delays are the bad points. I am probably not able to put across the seriousness of what I'm saying. But in the last 20, 30 years, every year, sorry, there's a deterioration. And this deterioration will continue unless we challenge it. The political class won't challenge it, the judicial class won't challenge it, the legal system, most of the successful lawyers don't seem to care. But at least the lawyers who are not making great money should care. Citizens should care. That is the plea. And yet I'm hoping that somebody tears what I am submitting down and say, ये बकवास है. Logically कोई तो बताओ. अगर बकवास नहीं है तो make it your mission.
Thank you, sir. The floor is now open for questions from the audience.
Participants can raise hand or they can also type in. Meanwhile, let me ask a question from sir. Sir, I am from economics background, and being an economist, we look a lot into country's profile in terms of law and order, especially into dispute resolution and all these factors. And our country doesn't fare very well, as we have mentioned, Mera Bharat Mahan and a lot of things. Despite having several things, there has been some improvement and advancement, like we have quasi-judicial bodies, economic wings, कई सारे चीजें सर आ रही हैं, उसमें कुछ progress है, जैसा हम देखते हैं. But overall, we also get to see that a lot of rich people are leaving India. And I keep on asking this thing from a lot of our experts. They also agree. लोग कनाडा जा रहे हैं, से यूके जा रहे हैं, जिनके पास पैसा है, इन्वेस्टमेंट यहाँ नहीं कर रहे हैं, काफी जटिल समस्या है और लोगों के पास सॉल्यूशन नहीं है. इससे इवन यू मेंशन बार काउंसिल हो या लॉयर्स ग्रुप हो, किसी को इसके बारे में कुछ पढ़ा नहीं है. सर, व्हाट डू यू थिंक इज द रीजन बिहाइंड दिस बिजनेस एज यूजुअल सिनेरियो व्हिच इज पर्टिनेंट थ्रू आउट, ऊपर से नीचे तक, और आपको क्या लगता है इसमें कैसे बदलाव आएगा?
एक चीज सोचिए, हमारी पोस्टल सिस्टम इंप्रूव हुई, हमारी टेलीकम्युनिकेशन इंप्रूव हुई, रास्ते 70 इयर्स में इंप्रूव हुए, पर इसमें हमने डिमांड ही नहीं किया. ऐसा नहीं कि भारत में कुछ इंप्रूवमेंट नहीं होती है. This nation is capable of improving, and it has improved in banking systems, in so many systems. In the judicial system, we have not demanded this. And I blame citizens as individuals for this lapse. हम लोकशाही कहते हैं, लोकशाही का मतलब ये है कि हमें उस पर कुछ असर करना पड़ेगा. सिर्फ वोट दे के हम completely meaningless, senseless campaigns are run to have votes. India against corruption 10 साल पहले बड़ा agitation, लाखों लोग streets पे आ गए. We achieved nothing. We need to identify the true problems of India. And we say we need to find solutions. And you and I need to find solutions, not depending on the leaders and the political leaders and ministers and so on. We need to take it on ourselves that it's our responsibility. ये मेरी जिम्मेदारी है क्योंकि मैं इस देश का राजा या रानी हूं. I can see no other way. I find it ridiculous to read Niti Aayog saying 324 years लग जाएंगे. अरे 324.45 क्यों नहीं बोला? 324 साल लग जाएंगे किस हिसाब से? We've just thrown in the towel. Across the country, ये तो ऐसे ही चलेगा भाई. इंडिया है, इंडिया तो ऐसा ही होगा. एंड जब तक वो रहेगा इंडिया फर्स्ट रेट नेशन नहीं बन सकेगा, ये गारंटी है. एंड इट्स नॉट जस्ट बिजनेस डीलिंग्स, इट्स नॉट जस्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट्स. If you are not fair to the poor and marginalized, you will not improve. We blame people for being Naxalites, but we don't seem to understand that they don't see a sense of justice. This is important. Improvement दिख ही नहीं रही है. We are deteriorating. It should horrify us कि और चीजों में हम improve कर रहे हैं. GDP में improve हो रहा है, दूसरी चीजों में improve हो रहा है, पर इसमें हम पूरा होते जा रहे हैं. Banking system, the commercial clerks accepted computerization 30 years back. And 30 years later, the judicial system resolutely refuses to accept this. Resolutely. As I said, the Bombay High Court example that I gave, अगर waste कैसे ज्यादा करो, इसकी competition रखी होती, Bombay High Court would get the prize. And probably this doesn't apply only to Bombay High Court, maybe it applies to all high courts. A simple thing like e-courts you can't do. Those are 5 से e-committee रही है Supreme Court की. Who's asking for accountability? Let us raise the demand.
Sir, I was trying to ask you this only, that what are the underlying factors that judicial bodies, association, lawyer bodies, association, not bringing this to the forefront of for the agenda for making our government minister, sir, काफी कुछ कर रहे हैं meeting ऐसा, अब वो क्या sir ad hoc लग रहा है आपको? काफी कुछ इसके बारे में
अब तक कोई किसी ने ये नहीं कहा कि 5 साल में या 10 साल में अब 90% केसेस 6 महीने में करेंगे, 1 साल में करेंगे. ऐसा कोई कमिटमेंट तो करें. प्रेजेंट चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया कमिटमेंट तो करें. एंड इट्स नॉट अबाउट इंडिविजुअल. आई एम सेइंग आई डोंट सी दैट सेंस ऑफ अर्जेंसी एट ऑल. आई सी कंप्लीट नॉन सीरियसनेस. तो हम डिमांड करें, जहां पे हैं बात करें 5 लोगों से, 10 लोगों से. डिमांड क्रिएट हो सकती है. इंडिया अगेंस्ट करप्शन करके हमने क्या किया? कुछ नहीं अचीव किया. सबको वोट दो हम कहते हैं, पर गवर्नेंस को, जुडिशियल सिस्टम को बेटर करो, डिमांड करो तो सही. 20% जजेस इंक्रीज करके ना करो, दूसरी तरह से करो, बट द एंड रिजल्ट मस्ट बी आई मस्ट सी रिजल्ट्स. वी आर नॉट सीइंग रिजल्ट्स. It is not part of any public policy discussion. Sorry, I'm not sure whether I have answered your.
No problem, sir. That was also our purpose, that we highlight this issue. So we reached out to you when Shalu ma'am, Vibhuti ma'am curated this course, that we need to highlight in public policy this issues a lot. Thank you very much. We'll invite more questions.
Yeah. Charu has
Shalu ma'am or
responded.
Vibhuti ma'am, would you like to add anything?
No, Charu has responded. Jamila ji, if you want to speak, she's a ground.
Oh, yes, Jamila ji, Bombay. Yes, why not? Please go ahead. Charu ji, you can also, if you want to. Harsha?
Yes. So thank you, sir, for your talk. Your presentation stored a lot of emotions. First and foremost, anger, a lot of it. Patriotism, sadness, a lot of guilt as well, distress, and surprisingly also hope amidst all of the chaos. Within 5 to 10 minutes of your presentation, it stirred so much anger about how the farmer committed the suicide and how his whole family went. It was such a sad thing. And I can't believe how you have for years and decades kept on doing this. And I have no criticism at all for it. I just have respect and a salute, like how you have been doing it. I also admire that you have some citizen actions that we can do so that we can show our support to you. As an engineer who understands computer myself, I can maybe help you with algorithm-based computerized listings and discuss about how we can make it happen. And thank you, sir, for all your life's work. Thank you.
Thank you. I've requested the organizers to share the presentations everywhere. My
Yeah.
email ID is also given. Feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah.
You'll be helping me and helping yourself.
Yeah.
We can go next to Jamila ji. Thank you, Charu ji. Jamila ji, आप बोलेंगे?
हेलो
जी, जमीला जी, प्लीज गो अहेड।
जी जी, सभी को नमस्ते जी। मेरा सवाल है कि जैसे सर ने बताया, बहुत सारे जुडिशियल सिस्टम के अंदर जो हमारे देश के अंदर कितनी कमियां हैं जो अभी तक भरे नहीं गए हैं, लेकिन एक बात यहाँ पे ये दिखती है कि हम 10 साल पहले किस तरीके का जुडिशियल सिस्टम का सामना करते थे और आज किस तरीके का सामना कर रहे हैं, इसमें अंतर हमने ये देखा है कि हमने 10 साल पहले एक केस लड़ा था जो मुंबई के अंदर हीरानंदानी बिल्डर, उनके खिलाफ हमारा केस था कि उन्होंने गरीबों के हक की जमीन वो खुद सरकार से लिए और वो अमीरों के लिए घर बना कर दिए। जहाँ पे हमें घर मिलनी चाहिए थे, वहां पे हमारे घर को तोड़कर हमें बेघर कर दिया गया और हमें घर नहीं दिया गया। तो इसके खिलाफ हम कोर्ट में गए, तो हमारा काफी लंबा संघर्ष के बाद हमें एक जजमेंट अच्छा सा मिला था कि वो जिस गलती उन्होंने किया था हीरानंदानी बिल्डर ने, तो उनको 2000 करोड़ रुपए का जुर्माना कोर्ट ने लगाया। लेकिन उसके 5 महीने के बाद ये पता चला कि वो सिर्फ 200 करोड़ रुपए का जुर्माना भर के वो पूरी तरीके से बाहर निकल गए और वो जो जमीन पर घर बनाए थे वो सारे लीगल कर दिए गए। और हम जो लड़ाई सच्चाई की लड़ रहे थे और जिसके लिए हम लाखों के तादाद में कोर्ट के सामने या फिर आजाद मैदान के अंदर या फिर मीडिया के सामने या फिर जंतर मंतर पे हमने अपना संघर्ष को जारी रखा, जब 200 करोड़ रुपए का जुर्माना सुनकर हम एक हिसाब से वहां पे कहीं ना कहीं कमजोर पड़ गए और हमारे हक के घर तो हमें मिले नहीं, लेकिन हमारी जो जमीन थी, हमारे लिए जो जमीन थी, वो जमीन पे जिनके लिए घर बनाए गए थे वो लीगल हो गए। ये जुडिशियल सिस्टम। और दूसरी बात, अभी अगर हम अभी की बात करते हैं, अभी हम वो काम ही नहीं कर पा रहे हैं कि हम लाखों की तादाद में जाके कोर्ट के सामने बैठे या आजाद मैदान में बैठे। वो सिचुएशन नहीं रह गया और वो माहौल भी नहीं रह गया। और जिस तरीके से हम कोर्ट में जाकर हमारे अधिकारों की बात करने के लिए जो हिम्मत जुटाने की 10 साल पहले हमारे पास जो स्टामिना था, वो आज हम कहीं ना कहीं उस स्टामिना को पीछा ले रहे हैं कि नहीं, अगर हम आगे बढ़ेंगे तो पता नहीं क्या होगा। क्या पता कि कल को हम हक के लिए कोर्ट में जा रहे हैं, कल को हमें ही उठा के जेल में डाल दिया जाएगा। तो ये 10 साल के बीच में का जो अंतर हमारे मन के अंदर जो पैदा हो गया है, उसको अगर निकालनी है, उसका डर निकालनी है, तो क्या हमें सिर्फ जुडिशियल सिस्टम के ऊपर ही भरोसा करके चलना पड़ेगा, या फिर जो पॉलिटिशियन जो आज या कल थी, वो जिस तरीके से पॉलिटिशियन के बीच में जो अदलाव बदलाव होता है, वो अदलाव बदलाव का असर पूरी तरीके से कोर्ट के ऊपर पड़ रहा है, कोर्ट के जजों के ऊपर पड़ रहा है, उनके फैसलों पे पड़ रहा है और वो हमारी जिंदगियों को अफेक्ट कर रहा है। तो ये बदलाव कैसे हम ला सकते हैं? क्या अगर ये इसी तरीके से चलते रहेगा तो मुमकिन है क्या भविष्य के अंदर हमारी पीढ़ी या हमारे जो बच्चे हैं वो किसी के खिलाफ या किसी भ्रष्टाचार के खिलाफ या किसी अधिकार के लिए लड़ सकते हैं, या फिर वो उनका सिस्टम ही ऐसा बदल जाएगा कि नहीं, जो कोर्ट तय करेगा, जो पॉलिटिशियंस तय करेंगे, जो माहौल है उसको हमें एक्सेप्ट करते हुए चलना पड़ेगा। आज हम देख रहे हैं 10 साल पहले परिस्थिति बिल्कुल नहीं थी। कहीं पे देश में आग लगी है, जल रहा है देश, कहीं पे महिलाओं को नंगा घुमाया जा रहा है और कहीं पे रेप किया जा रहा है, कहीं पे जुनैद जैसे लोगों को ट्रेन से हकेल दिया जाता है, कहीं कॉलेज से यूनिवर्सिटी से बच्चों को गायब कर दिया जाता है। वहां हम बोल पाते थे, हम आवाज उठा पाते थे, लेकिन हम आज वो नहीं कर पा रहे हैं। हम खिलाफ बोलने में आगे बढ़ ही नहीं पा रहे हैं। और मीडिया भी उसी तरीके से रेस्पॉन्स हो रही है, और सच्चाई सामने आ ही नहीं रही है, और कोर्ट भी कुछ इसमें क्या कर रहा है। अभी जाकर सीजेआई ने एक फैसला सुनाया कि भाई ठीक है, कुछ तो बोलना चाहिए प्रधानमंत्री जी को अपने मणिपुर के बारे में, महिलाओं के बारे में। तो क्या सिर्फ एक मणिपुर ही जल रहा है? रिलीजियन के नाम पे मुंबई भी जल रहा था पिछले साल, और रिलीजियन के नाम पे हर साल कुछ ना कुछ हर त्योहार में होते जा रहा है। तो हम किसके पास न्याय के लिए जाए, और किसको ठहराए कि ये इनकी जिम्मेदारी है कि इनको ये काम करनी चाहिए, आगे चल के ये काम नहीं होगा, ये गलत काम नहीं होगा। और इस तरीके से देश नहीं चलेगा। इस तरीके से देश चलेगा तो हमारे आर्टिकल 19, आर्टिकल 14, आर्टिकल 21 का क्या मतलब रह जाएगा? फिर संविधान कहाँ पे है? कहाँ संविधान का पूरी तरीके से पालन हो रहा है? ये सारे सवाल मन में हैं। तो फिर इसको हम कैसे किसके ऊपर भरोसा करें? ये मैं थोड़ी कंफ्यूज में हूँ। तो सर से रिक्वेस्ट है कि सर, क्या सच में हम आने वाले भविष्य को उस तरीके से देखेंगे जहां पे कोई नहीं है? देखेंगे जो होगा, जो हो रहा है वो होने दो, ऐसे देखना पड़ेगा? या फिर कहीं ना कहीं एक उम्मीद है कि नहीं, हमारे लिए सीजे है, हमारे लिए सरकार है, चलो वो कुछ ना कुछ अच्छा फैसला लेगी।
जमीला जी, जो आपने प्रश्न उठाए हैं बहुत वैलिड हैं, मैं कंप्लीटली एग्री करता हूं उस पर।
जी
मगर इसके साथ आपने लास्ट 10 साल की बात की।
जी
मेरे हिसाब से लास्ट 50-60 साल में हमने रेगुलेटर्स जो होते हैं, लोकशाही में इंस्टीट्यूशंस होती हैं और उसके रेगुलेट करने को, उसको ओवरसी करने को भी हम करते हैं, उनकी अकाउंटेबिलिटी हमने देखी नहीं। उनकी सिलेक्शन भी फ्लॉड रही, इरिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ द पॉलिटिकल पार्टी। शायद वो थोड़ा ब्रेजन हो रहा है पहले की कंपैरिजन में, मगर पहले भी ये था। इलेक्शन कमीशन, सीबीआई को 10 साल पहले सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने केस पैरेट कहा था, और ये सिलसिला चलता रहा है। इंफॉर्मेशन कमिश्नर्स की सिलेक्शन मैं देखता हूं कंप्लीटली आर्बिट्रेरी। वुमेन्स कमीशन, चिल्ड्रंस कमीशन, ये कोई रेगुलेट नहीं करते। ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन क्या डिलीवर करता है? ये रेगुलेटर्स के पास हमने अकाउंटेबिलिटी मांगी नहीं। ये रेगुलेटर्स का चयन ट्रांसपेरेंट तरह से हो, ऐसा जरूरी नहीं हमने समझा। ट्रांसपेरेंसी आनी चाहिए, ये हमने जरूरी नहीं समझा। एंड जब तक हम वो नहीं करेंगे, जब तक जो चेक्स एंड बैलेंस ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी जिसको मैं कहता हूं, वो सही नहीं होंगे, और वो नहीं है सही, और वो 10 साल से नहीं, 50 साल से सही नहीं है। हाँ, कुछ अच्छे लोग भी सिलेक्ट होते थे, कुछ चमचे भी सिलेक्ट हो जाते थे, मगर हमने ये इंसिस्ट नहीं किया। इलेक्शन कमीशन पे हमने कब इंसिस्ट किया कि ये इसका सिलेक्शन ट्रांसपेरेंटली होना चाहिए? इसकी अकाउंटेबिलिटी हमने मांगी क्या? कोर्ट्स के पास अकाउंटेबिलिटी मांगी क्या कि कॉलेजियम के रेजोल्यूशंस बराबर हमें रिफ्लेक्ट करो, जवाब दो? आज भी नहीं हो रहा। जो पहले 3, 4 या 5 या 10 कॉलेजियम रेजोल्यूशंस में जो ट्रांसपेरेंसी दिखाई गई, उसको आप कंपेयर करें। बीच में तो ये हो गया सिर्फ नाम ही देते थे, हमने इसको सिलेक्ट किया, खत्म हो गया। अब थोड़ी सी ट्रांसपेरेंसी, बट वो सिलेक्टिव ट्रांसपेरेंसी है। ये हम जब तक नहीं करेंगे, और भारत की जनता को करना पड़ेगा, भारत के बादशाह और बेगमों को करना पड़ेगा। अगर हम नहीं करेंगे तो ये देश बेहतर नहीं हो पाएगा। ये मेरा मानना है। वो तो एक बहुत बड़ी लड़ाई है। मैं जो कोशिश कर रहा हूं कि भाई एक अंग एटलीस्ट जुडिशियल सिस्टम एटलीस्ट टाइम में तो करे। हम टाइम भी नहीं बोल रहे हैं। कंज्यूमर एक्ट ने कहा कि 6 महीने के अंदर डिसीजन होना चाहिए, नहीं होता है। 1 साल, 2 साल, 5 साल। न कोर्ट्स, न क्वासी जुडिशियल सिस्टम्स कोई टाइम के न भारत के नागरिक को रिस्पेक्ट मिलता है। तो ये बड़े बड़े लड़ाइयां हैं, मगर हम इसको सिस्टम इसको ठीक करें तब कुछ बेटर रिजल्ट मिलेगा। हमने वो कोशिश ही नहीं करी। हमने ये कहा ही नहीं है कि जुडिशरी अकाउंटेबल हो। हमने ये कहा ही नहीं है कि पॉलिटिशियन अकाउंटेबल हो। हम अपना अपना उल्लू सीधा करके एंड व्हाट आई कॉल ऑलमोस्ट मीनिंगलेस एक्सरसाइज। सिविल सोसाइटी ने कहा पुलिस कंप्लेंट्स अथॉरिटी होना चाहिए, सुप्रीम कोर्ट से डिसीजन दिया। पुलिस कंप्लेंट्स अथॉरिटी कुछ ढंग का काम नहीं करती और हम न उस पर कोई बहस करते हैं। ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन, व्हाट इज द आउटपुट, व्हाट आर द अचीवमेंट? 2-5 साल तक केस लटक रहे हैं और ये सब चेक्स एंड बैलेंसेस ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी को हमने ठीक नहीं किए हैं। आप कहेंगे कि हमारी जिम्मेदारी है। हाँ, हमारी ही जिम्मेदारी है अगर हम लोकशाही है तो, और नहीं तो फिर ढकोसला है अपनी लोकशाही नहीं है। हम कहते हैं हमें लोकशाही नहीं चाहिए, हमें राजा स्टाइल चाहिए। हम तुमको अकाउंटेबल रखेंगे, प्राइम मिनिस्टर को, चीफ मिनिस्टर को, जजेस को अकाउंटेबल रखेंगे। अरे हमारी अकाउंटेबिलिटी कहाँ गई? हम लड़े एक मुद्दे पे, मगर वो मुद्दा सही निकला या नहीं। आरटीआई बहुत जबरदस्त एक स्टेप था, आज ऑलमोस्ट कंप्लीट रिवर्सल में जा रहा और आवाज नहीं उठ रही है कि न जनता में, न लोगों में, न आरटीआई यूजर्स में ये आवाज नहीं उठ रही कि अरे ये हमारा मौलिक अधिकार है, इसको आप खत्म कर रहे हो। देश नागरिकों के बल पे बढ़ेगा और हम अगर जिम्मेवारी नहीं लेंगे तो देश नहीं बढ़ेगा। हम फर्स्ट रेट नेशन नहीं बन सकते, दुनिया के टॉप 10 देशों में नहीं आएंगे। पैसे आप कितने भी कमा लीजिए, पैसे वाले लोग जैसे डॉक्टर अर्जुन ने कहा छोड़ के जा रहे हैं इंडिया को, बट उससे बात नहीं है। बात यह है कि मैंने क्या किया। मेरा देश महान नहीं है, मगर ये दोष मेरा है। अगर हर इंसान ये सब शुरू करे तो बदलाव आएगा, तो देश बदलेगा, देश बेहतर बनेगा, नहीं तो नहीं बनेगा।
Thank you, sir. Harsha, please ask your question.
Yeah, my question is, as sports are getting digitized and sessions are going live, how has technology fared in time-bound justice, especially in India?
Very slowly, extremely slow pace. I have a petition pending in the Supreme Court asking for hybrid virtual hearings to be made a standard thing, not selective. And for the past 1 year, I think there have been 3 or 4 hearings. अपनी पेस पे चलता है। मेरी जिंदगी रहेगी तब तक वो डिसाइड होगा या नहीं, मैं नहीं जानता हूँ। Point is, we need to think of timeliness in everything, including when a citizen writes to a government, he must get his response. जवाब तो मिले, हमको जवाब ही नहीं मिलता है। हम राजा है, बादशाह, बेगम है, डेमोक्रेसी कहते हैं। We made a joke out of it. We need to look at systems and say these systems need to change, and we will insist that they change, they become accountable. Have you heard of a demand for timeliness in court decisions?
No, sir, I haven't.
How can we miss something so fundamental, my friend? And Harsha, I don't mean to blame you, but I'm saying all of us are, and we must take the blame. Saying Akbar Badshah or Shivaji Maharaj, in their days as rulers, if something was wrong, they didn't say, "Ye theek nahi chal raha hai, kisi ko zimmedar." They used to say, "I'll set it right." A ruler has to set things right. Citizens in countries that advance more are setting things right. They are holding things accountable. We are not doing that. We are not doing our job. And I can see it. When I was 20, I used to feel dissatisfied with society. Now I can see my generation is responsible. Maybe your generation can get things right. And once you decide that it is your job, you will find roads, you will find pathways. we've not accepted that it is my role. And I'm still waiting for people to tear down the proposal that I have given. And if not, at least commit and say, sir, we will spread this to people.
Sir, I don't think so. People are going to contradict your proposal. It's very much needed and very rightful. Moving with the next question, Garvit Gupta.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, Gavin.
Yeah, so as you were saying that we should all take responsibility for our own actions in changing the nation, I still want to ask you, like, it's not saying that we shouldn't take responsibility, but in today's world where everyone's suffering from unemployment, poverty, and all sorts of illnesses and problems of all sorts of kinds, uh, I don't understand how we can actually take that kind of responsibility because if you were to talk about the princes and the princesses or the powerful, they actually had the power to do something. Shivaji had the power to do something. In today's world, because most power is concentrated in the hands of who has money, who has, say, symbolic power of some sort, some sort of legal power, only those can actually come together and do something. Like, I'm not saying that we cannot do anything, but how do you think we can get out of this turmoil where we are essentially, as of this moment, not holding the power that we need to make the change? How do we get out of that? Because the way I see it, the problems that plague the legal system, as I used to follow your work on RTI some time back too, are more than just the legal system's problem. They're also part of the problem of the way money and power is distributed among society and how it is used to influence all sorts of things and functions.
Are we a
What do you think about
democracy? Garvit, are we a democracy?
that? On paper, yes. On paper, in theory, yes, not in practice.
Who except the rulers of this nation can make the change?
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Who except the rulers of the nation can make a change? Incidentally,
So
I looked at Google to define democracy. And one of those definitions probably fits current India more accurately. It said a system to elect rulers for the nation.
that is a very, what we would call a very Google Wikipedia definition, but I think the larger part of democracy that we were taught in many of our classes and in many of my readings was that democracy doesn't just start from elections per se. It also starts from a certain choice made, a certain choice given to the citizens in all decisions of this country. And as you can see, a lot of decisions of the economic type, of many political types, are taken away from the people themselves. And I think a lot of conversations here in this very course have been about decentralization in the area of policy making, so to say. And I'm not saying that this is a solution for this, say, the legal system there. It's a very complex system per se, but I don't think we live in a democracy or all that big of a democracy because a lot of the decisions are outside the hands of the people themselves.
My friend, Garvit, think of it logically. In 2014, say 2011 or 2010 to 2014 period, a big campaign started against corruption. And a change was brought about. I'm not saying good, bad, ugly, but the change was brought about. But the result was not satisfactory. So who but the citizens of this nation, the rulers of this nation, brought about the change?
Are the citizens the rulers of this nation? Because the rulers usually have control.
2014, how did the change come? 2014, how do you think the change came?
I'm sorry.
I'm not talking about whether it was good, bad, or ugly.
Yeah.
I'm saying 2014, a big change did come about.
Yes.
In which the anti-corruption movement did play a significant part. The fact that it did not become an anti-corruption movement is a separate story. We've got to hope that a Garvit Gupta will take the lead and say, it's my job. अगर ये देश महान नहीं है, दोष मेरा है. Form groups, keep talking about it. If you are convinced, talk of the judicial system and how to improve it. Write letters, send articles to various magazines, to various things. Insist that this should become part of the policy making of this nation. Insist that selection of election commissioners or CVCs or information commissioners should be a transparent process. A variety of things. Pick on one or two things and persevere with that. Decide. One survey of mine shows that almost all Indian citizens crib for about 7-8 hours every month about what is wrong with India. My submission is continue cribbing, though it will change nothing. Continue cribbing. Out of that 1 or 2 hours a month, decide to spend to say, I will bring change. Whether I succeed or not is not relevant. Let me make the attempt. And if enough friends like Garvin make the attempt, you are all younger, smarter than me. You will get the change.
First, that is actually very inspiring. I'm not going to lie. But I'm worried about a couple of things here that what you're saying, writing letters and things like that. I mean, I was 10 years old when, 10 or 11 years old when 2014 came about and the movement was going on. So I don't remember much. I'm very young. But from what I have understood so far, whenever we have sent letters, whenever we've done some sort of activism of this sort, it hasn't been considered or hasn't brought about any change because of simple reasons that I told you earlier, that we don't really live in a democracy, because we just have the power to make suggestions. We don't have the power to make those decisions. And fundamentally,
I'm saying, my friend, in 2014, a major change did come in India. The UPA government got thrown out. The BJP, and I repeat, I'm not saying what is good or bad, but change was brought about by citizens of this country. A major change was brought about. But citizens have given up. They don't believe. If Garvin Gupta had the same level of confidence as Arvind Kejriwal, he will say, "Main karunga."
So citizens haven't given up. They just have a different goal in their mind these days. And the different goal is, well, something that is not favorable for us. I think a lot of part of what you're saying that people took the initiative. People took the initiative, but because of this lack of autonomy that they have in what they themselves wanted, because the discourse around them, their thoughts, and all that things were influenced by the media, by people who actually had the power. So I wouldn't really give it to the citizens that they brought about things themselves. There were things that pushed them to do it. And I think giving it to the citizens the entire responsibility today to bring about the change is unfair, because there's something bigger than them, a larger movement, a larger force, which will push the citizens into motion in the same way that it did in 2014. But I don't see how individual people can do anything right now. That's my only concern. Although I think we are making the same point, but in different ways.
My submission is, and I could be wrong, is only individuals will bring the change. No one else will do. Institutions will build their own selfishness, their greed, their hierarchical power struggles into play. But the individual citizen is unviable, in my opinion. I live in that romantic belief. I could be wrong. Maybe you will find a better version.
I understand. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. On that hopeful note, we'll end the Q&A round. Before moving to the vote of thanks, sir, please share any concluding remarks.
My salute to the Badshahs and Begums of this nation. Believe that. Forget what I said. I mean, implement it if you are convinced. Push for it. And you can bring the change. But more importantly, if at the end of this talk, you are willing to accept and believe that you are the Badshahs and Begums of this nation, I would have served my purpose.
Thank you, sir. Thank you once again for the extremely important discussion and a moving presentation today. I request Professor Vibhuti ma'am to give her closing remarks for the session. Ma'am, please unmute.
Yeah, thank you, Shailesh Bhai, for such a important, powerful presentation. And I think what emerged from your presentation is that justice delayed is injustice, and your data analysis of pending cases in the Supreme Court, High Court, District and Session Courts is really mind-boggling. And as you said, that average vacancies in Supreme Court of 12% or High Court is 30% and lower courts is 20%. I think that makes our duty to emphasize and pressurize the government to fill up these vacancies. It is not only in judiciary, but even in the public education, public health, everywhere you are seeing this kind of a vacancy, which also completely deteriorates the state, the kind of services that the state provides to the marginalized section. You rightly said that those who have money, they prevail and they get whatever judgments they want, and they also system bans its rules for them. But when citizens are suffering acutely because of these huge delays, and the story of Tukaram is extremely heartbreaking, and I think we don't want more and more such Tukarams. And also we in the women's movement have also seen one after another so many human miseries are inflicted on people because of this either judicial inactivism or the judicial delays. And you rightly said that when the date of retirement of judges is known in advance, why can't the selection process start timely? And I think this applies to, I think, all government positions, because the delays also result into non-decision, that not taking any important decision, even when the major challenges are faced. So I think if you rightly recommend that if all positions had been filled promptly and these judges were disposed of the cases on time, then the average pendency would reduce drastically. And if the Constitution, if we respect Constitution, if we want to defend the safeguards provided by the Constitution and the guarantee of equality before the law as per the fundamental rights of our country, I think it's a very important that we give priority to the cases of the common person. And I think you rightly said that when common persons becomes badshahs and becomes of the judicial, in the eyes of judicial system, then the things will change. But I think it's a very, very important thing which gives us not only food for thought, but also it also galvanizes us into action. And the young participants of this course, I think for them also that there is no TINA, there is no alternative, but I think we all can bring the change. And I think it's individual initiates, like the way Mahatma Gandhi initiated the freedom movement. But then when you have a commitment, when you have a courage of conviction, and when you have a ability to reach out to people, establish networks, we can bring the changes. I think these are the learnings of all social movements. Your work in RTI sector, the way you are so accessible, whether it's a school or college or community organization, or everywhere you reach out and take your message. I think this is what all of us have to do. You are an icon, and we really see you as a role model for the social movement. Thank you, Shailesh.
Thank you, ma'am. With your permission, we can go for the vote of thanks. As we come to the end of day 21 of Law and Public Policy Youth Fellowship and Online National Summer School Program, a 2-month online immersive legal awareness and action research certificate training course and internship program, I, Nikita Bhardwaj, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, would like to propose the formal vote of thanks on behalf of IMPRI, New Delhi. We are grateful to our expert for day 21 session, Shri Shailesh Gandhi, for taking out his valuable time and giving us an opportunity to learn from this online certificate program. We thank our chair, Professor Vibhuti Patel, and lead advisor, Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam, for convening the session. We thank all of our participants who have raised pertinent questions and actively participated in today's deliberation. We look forward to welcoming you coming Monday, that is 31st July at 11:30 a.m. For our 22nd day of this certification course by distinguished experts, Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam, Advocate Abdul Hafiz Gandhi, and Professor Amita Singh. We are grateful if you are watching us later on YouTube or listening to us on our various podcasts or reading our publications. We hope you continue to join in future to our IMPRI #Web Policy Talk and #Web Policy Learning. Wishing you a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you, Shailesh.
Very
Thank
inspiring.
you. Thank you.